Neuroglial cells by Hyla Torres. Before we identify types of neuroglial or glial cells of the nervous system, we must first define them. What are they and what are they used for? There are nearly 1 trillion neurons in the nervous system. This sounds like an outstanding number, but what is more astonishing is that there are even more cells that support these neurons, called neuroglia or glial cells. Many people know about neurons, but not many people are familiar with glial cells. However, they are an incredibly important component of your brain functions, specifically the nervous system. These cells support and protect neurons and even help them carry out functions necessary for them to perform their usual tasks within the human body system. They also help in binding neurons together to form the necessary framework that create nervous tissue. Glia does translate to glue after all. Let's get right into the topic and learn the differences between the cells. The image here shows the types of neuroglia in the human nervous system. As you can see, there are 4 cell types found within the central nervous system and 2 of the peripheral nervous system. Over the next few slides, we will dig into what each cell looks like, what functions it performs or assists with, and any other pertinent details you need to know about these cells. Because this unit is mostly based on the central nervous system, we will only briefly discuss the glial cells of the peripheral nervous system. They are important, so be sure to take notes on them. I just want you to be aware that we're focusing on the central nervous system. The first type of cell of the central nervous system are oligodendrocytes. The name is translated from the term few tree cells. Some say it looks like an octopus, as it has a round and bulbous body and has extensions called processes. Remember, processes are arm-like extensions. Each of the processes will reach out to a nerve fiber and wrap around it like electrical insulation, just like you can see in the picture. Oligodendrocytes help to form myelin sheath in the brain and spinal cord in this wrapping motion. Think of these as the protectors of neurons. Next, we have ependymal cells, or ependymal cells. These cells are found in the ventricles and line cavities of the brain and spinal cord. They secrete and circulate cerebrospinal fluid, also known as CSF. These cells, in physical appearance, tend to resemble cuboidal epithelium, if you're looking at it histologically. Although they look like them, they do not contain basement membranes. They do have processes, like the previous cell we mentioned, and they help them, and because they are root-like, they assist in penetration of the tissue, in our case, the nervous tissue in the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid that it produces fills the spaces in the central nervous system. The cilia, or processes on the other side, on its surface, aid in circulation of the cerebrospinal fluid into the system. The next glial cells are microglia. Micro means small. They are named this because they are small cells with slender processes. Microglia phagocytize and destroy microorganisms, foreign matter, and dead nervous tissue. They are made from white blood cells or monocytes. They have probe-like extensions that seek out cellular remains or debris. These cells are often found concentrated where there are areas in the brain that have experienced an infection, types of physical distress, trauma, or injury, and also in cases of hemorrhaging or strokes. You can imagine these cells as garbage trucks that are always moving around the system, cleaning up and removing what is not needed. The last glial cells to mention from the central nervous system are astrocytes. These are the most abundant of the glial cells in the system. These cells can make up nearly 90% of tissue found in parts of the brain. Their name is derived from the root word of its star-like shape, as seen in the picture. They have many diverse functions, the most diverse of all the glial cells we have mentioned. Just to name a few, astrocytes cover brain surface and non-synaptic regions of neurons. They form supportive framework in the central nervous system, induce formation of blood-brain barrier, nourish neurons, produce growth factors that stimulates neurons. They communicate electrically with neurons and may influence synaptic signaling. They work to remove K+ and some neurotransmitters from ECF of the brain and spinal cord. They help to regulate composition, form scar tissue to remove damaged nervous tissues. This is called astrocytosis, or often sclerosis. I wasn't kidding when I said they perform many functions. Moving on, the glial cells I will discuss next are a part of the peripheral nervous system, which will be covered as our next unit. Although these cells are different because they are not part of the central nervous system, they are still important to recognize as glial cells. Make sure you are aware of how to identify them, not only from the picture, but by what they do. First, we're going to discuss the Schwann cells, also known as neurolemmacytes. These form neurolemma all around the peripheral nervous system nerve fibers and myelin around most of them, similarly to the way oligodendrocytes do in the central nervous system. They also work to aid in regeneration of damaged nerve fibers. Next, satellite cells. They surround the somas of neurons in the ganglia, provide electrical insulation, and regulation chemical environments neurons. They play a protective role in the peripheral nervous system. There is still much to be learned about satellite cells because they are not currently completely understood. The brain is a mystery. Alzheimer's disease, or AD, is a neurodegenerative disorder in humans. The symptoms for this disease usually begin to appear in the later years of life and do affect both memory and cognition in those affected with the disease. Currently, there is no cure for Alzheimer's, but much research has been done and will continue to be done to help those affected and hopefully soon cure it. In a recent study by Kim, Jung, and Yoon, research is being done to explore how glia can help us better understand Alzheimer's disorder. Microglia specifically are the main immune glial cells in the central nervous system. They assist primarily in maintaining homeostasis within the brain. Astrocytes are also another type of glial cells that are being researched for finding treatments for Alzheimer's disorder. Microglia are directly linked to aging in human brains and may be a factor of Alzheimer's disorder. The interesting part, and what is not fully understood yet, is whether glial cells are more beneficial or detrimental to neurofunctioning and cognition. The article continues on to look at both perspectives of how they play roles in both, being detrimental or being beneficial. With the controversies being considered, these glial cells are still going to be a primary piece in treatment and finding a cure for Alzheimer's disorder. Now it's time to check your knowledge. Now is a great time to ask yourself some of the questions to ensure that you're understanding what we just covered. Be sure that you are justifying your answers and understanding them, not just memorizing. How are glial cells different from neurons? How is myelin produced? Does production look different in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system? Or are they similar? As a wrap-up, please consider the following. There are more glial cells than there are neurons in the central nervous system. When there is a traumatic injury to the head, the glial cells can become damaged, which in turn can prevent oxygenation to the brain. The brain is incredibly intricate. Scientists are continuing to research the human brain to not only understand it better, but also to fight diseases and disorders. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you.